Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another You Should Be Watching video. And this time we're discussing another anime, Fist of the North Star, which is my second favorite anime of all time after JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And it also inspired JoJo, so it also gets a credit for that. Like, Fist of the North Star is a classic, but sadly it's now basically been completely forgotten here in the West. Which is really sad, because it's like people look at it and think like, oh, that's old, and move on to new stuff. Which is really sad, because Fist of the North Star is incredible. It has one of the best anime protagonists ever, amazing story, fantastic characters, and I don't think animation is bad at all. Fist of the North Star is actually the very first anime I ever watched. It was around the time where I was actually first getting into anime, and somehow I came across Fist of the North Star and I tried it and was immediately hooked in and started binge watching it and loved it so much. I was so hooked into it, and it was also around the time where I was really going through something, and Fist of the North Star really partially helped me make through it. I just wish people started giving Fist of the North Star a chance instead of just like dismissing it as old. Like, most people believe that Dragon Ball Z gave birth to all the shonen tropes, but truth is, it was actually Fist of the North Star. Like, without Fist of the North Star, most of our favorite shonen anime wouldn't be here today. Like, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure most certainly wouldn't be here. In fact, I actually watched JoJo right after I watched Fist of the North Star, because I was told by people that if I loved Fist of the North Star so much, I would love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and they were so right. But Fist of the North Star truly deserves to be revisited, because I still think it's magnificent and holds up so well to this day. There are so many things to talk about in Fist of the North Star. I will start with the gorgeous animation though. I personally think animation in Fist of the North Star is simply beautiful. It's old clearly, and many people don't seem to like it very much, but I just love it. I really love the old, clearly hand-drawn style. I adore the desert landscapes of the post-apocalyptic world, and the character designs are also great, with great line work applied to even the most transient characters, and color is greatly used in both the parched quality of the arid landscape and the flamboyant nature of the rampaging biker gangs with their creepy makeup and plain gang motifs. And another thing amazing in the animation is that some of the background art looks very much like watercolors, and I really love it, even if some people don't. I also love the post-apocalyptic setting and style. The aforementioned desert landscapes, for example, bandits tend to dress in mohawk haircuts, spiked leather jackets, and flamboyant colors. And Fist of the North Star in general gives me strong vibes of arcade beat-em-ups like Violent Storm, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, or Final Fight, which as a result makes it a little bit nostalgic for me, because those arcade beat-em-ups are very much my childhood, and it strongly reminds me how I used to go to an arcade and played some of those beat-em-ups. And of course, those games and Fist of the North Star were all inspired by Mad Max, but I love those vibes anyway. The music is simply phenomenal, from the opening theme song to the theme of Kenshiro killing bandits, or the closing credits. Every soundtrack is so memorable and has this memorable magic to it. What has to be discussed the most though about Fist of the North Star is the amazing story and the likable, amazing characters. The story could seem pretty paper thin on the first glance, and that is certainly true of the 1986 movie, but actual anime series has a pretty deep story with lots of heart and emotion. It takes place in the post-apocalyptic world after nuclear war, and the world gives strong Mad Max vibes. Or the arcade beat-em-ups I already mentioned. In the lead, we have Kenshiro, who is still one of my favorite anime protagonists ever, and his companions, children Lin and Beth. And together they form an amazing trio, and accompanying them on their post-apocalyptic adventure is so amazing. Kenshiro is a badass, and he's an epitome of what a real good man should be. He stands up for the weak and fights the evil bandits who prey on them. And he also knows the titular fighting technique of the North Star, or Hokuto Shinken as it is called in Japanese, a technique we are learning a lot more about as we delve far deeper into the show. Kenshiro also has a love of his life named Yuria, whose name has been translated to Julia in some English localizations, but let's stick with Yuria. Right in the beginning, his longtime friend Shin, a practitioner of a South Star style, which on the other hand in Japan is known as Nento Seiken, who also loved Yuria, takes her away, and first arc is Kenshiro first meeting Lin and Beth and going from town to town fighting various different bandits. And the first arc ends with a final showdown between Kenshiro and Shin. And Shin is not a one-dimensional villain as it seems at first. We learn that he actually genuinely loved Yuria and was really heartbroken that she loved Kenshiro and not him. In contrast to all the bandits that Kenshiro has been fighting, plenty of whom Shin himself actually sent after him, Shin is genuinely sympathetic and you very much feel sorry for him. And this is only the beginning of the story really. After the defeat of Shin, the story goes much further into even more interesting and memorable arcs. This is the point where honestly story truly begins and takes off. We learn a lot more about the two assassination arts, Kenshiro's Hokuto Shinken and Shin's Nento Seiken. We also meet different practitioners of those two assassination arts. We meet a character of Rei, probably my second favorite character in the story, after Kenshiro himself, of course. Like Shin, Rei is another practitioner of Nento Seiken, but in contrast to Shin, Rei becomes Kenshiro's friend and ally. One of the most awesome interactions between Kenshiro and Rei is that Rei is looking for a man with 7 scars, a man who kidnapped and blinded his sister. Kenshiro saves Rei's sister and reveals to Rei that he in fact does have 7 scars. But Rei is very smart and knows right away that Kenshiro is not the man he seeks. He got to know him way too well at this point and knows that there is no way that Kenshiro would have ever harmed his sister, or any other innocent person for that matter. And we also know that is true, and Kenshiro and Rei do later track the actual guy later on, and that actual guy is actually Jagi, another practitioner of Kenshiro's Hokuto Shinken, but I will not reveal any more information about him, although I will say this, there is a lot more information on him. And we meet a lot of other awesome characters. We have a village leader, Mamiya, who looks very much like Yuria, and she falls in love with Kenshiro, but she realizes that Kenshiro loves Yuria and that she has no chances with him. Rei falls in love with Mamiya, but I won't say where their romance will end up. I don't want to spoil too much, and many of you likely haven't seen the show, and I feel I spoiled too much anyway already. Main villain from Arc 2 onward is this guy Rao. Like Kenshiro and aforementioned Jagi, Rao is a practitioner of Hokuto Shinken, and he is the eldest of the 4. Kenshiro, as you can imagine, is the youngest. Rao always seemed like an obvious choice for the successor of Hokuto Shinken, but because of being so power-hungry, Kenshiro was chosen as the successor and Rao obviously wasn't happy. Like Shin, Rao also has depth to him, and he turns out to be far more sympathetic than initially seems. On one hand, he has might and power, but as you watch and learn more, you can see he's really a broken person inside, and you feel very sorry for him. But I won't get any more into it. I don't want to spoil too much. So while main villains like Shin and Rao are sympathetic, plenty of villains, most actually, especially minor ones, aren't sympathetic at all. In fact, vast majority of the villains you often have the feeling and you just wish to kill with your bare hands, and anytime Kenshiro kills them with his Hokuto Shinken, you can't help but feel joy. There is Jackal, for example, who enjoys hurting children but is also a huge coward when it comes to facing Kenshiro, and there is the mad scientist Amoeba. Most villains here are just pure evil monsters, you just enjoy watching them when Kenshiro gives them what they deserve. And there is a lot more to the story in general, but I won't reveal more. I revealed a lot already. Perhaps you might have heard from some people that there is not much substance in Fist of the North Star, but I'm going to argue it's actually the exact opposite, because Fist of the North Star has plenty of substance, and it actually has plenty of philosophical and moral themes like internal and spiritual strength and perception, and the constant fleeting nature of external powers, selflessness being more important than selfishness, forgiveness, redemption, and constant struggle for peaceful balance. And the two martial arts fighting techniques I've been talking about aren't superpowers, quite the opposite. They very much play into philosophies of the show, and they are based on harnessing inner strength and power. And they were inspired by real-life martial arts techniques, reportedly, which makes perfect sense because Asian martial arts is very much rooted in philosophy, and they aren't just fighting techniques as many people would believe. Hokuto Shinken is based on Kokondo karate style, based on touching vital body points, while Nanto Seiken is based on Tai Chi, which is more about fighting. Fist of the North Star is a really amazing anime, and I really wish people gave it another chance and just stopped dismissing it as old, because it truly is worth it. I suggest you give Fist of the North Star a first or another watch. Truly, you will not be disappointed, especially that, as I said, without Fist of the North Star, probably most of our favorite shonen animes wouldn't be here today, and the story isn't paper thin either. It actually has plenty of spiritual and philosophical themes. So, Fist of the North Star is a forgotten anime classic that truly deserves your attention. So I suggest, you probably haven't seen it, so please give a watch to Fist of the North Star, because truly you will not be disappointed. And avoid the sequel at all costs. It's kind of an insult to the original series, but the first Fist of the North Star series is so amazing, and it truly deserves another look. It truly is worth it, especially that plenty of our favorite anime series would likely not be here without Fist of the North Star. So, please give a try to Fist of the North Star, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out another You Should Be Watching video. Press the like button. Please subscribe this channel, and I'll talk to you later in a movie review. Talk to you then. Bye.